All right, so today we have a good friend of mine, Dustin. We've been buddies for quite a while now, several years, getting on a decade now, and I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I'm excited to have you. And Dustin, why don't you just kind of introduce yourself for those of you for those of us that don't know you, and just a quick little kind of background on yourself.
Yeah, so I been in real estate investing now. Started in 2003, full time since 2012. Located in Pontoon Beach, Illinois. So I'm across the river from you guys, and our business does a little bit of everything. Primarily, everything we focus on is on the rental side, but we also do a little bit of wholesaling and a little bit of education and so on and so forth. So yeah.
Awesome. So as far as your rental portfolio goes, how many buildings are you up to now?
So we do a little bit of property manage out of our office as well, but we don't advertise it. So between what we own and what we manage, we're pushing about 140 doors.
Okay.
I'm starting my full-time real estate career March 1st, 2012. And 2 weeks before that, I get a phone call from our community bank president with the bank that they are offering me a new position with the Bank of Edwardsville, commercial lending position. And and then I've got the voices in my head. I'm thinking, okay, am I making the right decision? Should I still go through with this? And I actually take the commercial banking lender position, and I do the position for 2 weeks. And I said to myself one day, sitting in my office, this isn't it. I'm not taking this position. I'm going full time into real estate. And I gave the bank my notice, and March 1st, 2012, went full time into real estate. 2009, saying to myself, I will never allow myself to be in this position. I will never put my future, my retirement in someone else's hands, that I could potentially be the person sitting there after a 30-year, 40-year career, knowing now I can't retire because my 401k has disappeared, or something the market has crashed. And that's what inspired rental in my mind. I had already actually had a couple small rental properties, knew nothing about rental, had no business even buying rental properties because I didn't know how to manage people. But I knew that real estate was going to be the direction that I was going to go at that point, and just started reading every real estate book I could get my hands on. I started doing tons of free webinars and classes, and I just was inundated in real estate to get in a position to where when 2012 rolled around, I was somewhat educated, nowhere near educated what I thought I was. You learn in this business very quickly, but yeah, that's my mind was just so laser focused on that. And I remember my wife telling me in 2012, or she told me this recently, but she said, I remember in 2012, there was no stopping you. You were so laser focused, and no matter what we said, you weren't going to change your mind. And I remember those moments. I remember that's all I could think about was just making this business work. And it helps when you've got people in your corner. My wife, my parents, so incredibly supportive, to this day are the most supportive people. I've brought some crazy things to them, and a lot of stress in this business, and they've just supported me all the way through it. So I've got an amazing team.
Dude, I mean that's amazing. I mean it's incredible. Like just thinking about that. And so you got really crystal clear on like your why, like
Yeah.
what you're doing and like your purpose on that. And so then you got pretty crystal clear on, hey, rentals is the strategy of how I want to get there. I want to build my portfolio so I'm in control of my destiny. I'm not having to rely on anybody else. So what happened when you're crystal clear on that, any sort of negative input from anybody else, like it was almost like a shield for you, you're able to like deflect it off, right? Um,
Yeah.
and then, so like what type of obstacles came your way when you got in that first year full time?
What didn't come our way? So I get into real estate full time 2012. I was working for the Bank of Edwardsville. I hadn't mentioned my stepdad was also working for the Bank of Edwardsville at this time. So I quit. A couple of months later, he decides to quit, and he comes on and becomes basically a project manager for us. So he's overseeing our contractors and material orders and so on and so forth. And at this point in March, we had not had still any formal education. I had not hired a mentor, and we were just going at it, buying at this point, buying probably 3 to 4 properties every couple of months. I had this crazy goal that I wanted to do, 40 rehabs in my first year. Uh, and looking back, I'm, no capable way of even doing that or succeeding at that, because we didn't have the contractors, we didn't have the proper mindset. I just had this thought that I was just going to get in this business and I was just going to push as hard as I can. So obviously,
Do you know why? Can you tell me more on that? Like why you want to do the 40 rehabs?
that it was just a number I grabbed at. I just thought, we could do. We were doing at this point. We were doing a couple a year. 3 or 4 maybe at this point. And I thought, you know what, if we're contracting this work out, there's no reason why we can't do 3 a month, maybe 4 a month. And we can find contractors, we can get them in, get them out. And at this time, there was a lot of properties out there. You got to remember, it's 2012, market's still depressed. The things I didn't think about was selling these houses. Some of these homes that we rehabbed sat for 90 to 120 days before we got them under contract because of the market we were in. So that's money that I'm holding from an investor for longer periods of time. Profit margins are, we're going into a project trying to hit like 18 to 20% return on investment. We're hitting 8 or 10% return on investment because we're just, not buying them right. Contractors are running up more material costs. So you asked me what we did wrong, or what obstacle came in our way. What didn't? We didn't know how to screen contractors. And when I say I didn't know how to screen contractors. I was just hiring them. And, so we get into that and we say, okay, we've got a lot of great things going, but we got a lot of bad things going too. So we need some type of mentorship. We need some type of guidance. And so at that point, I had been familiar with fortune builders since 2009. And mid-April or May, I decided I'm gonna invest into the fortune builders program because I feel like the missing piece was just the guidance and the direction of everything. And so, May 2012, I decided to invest into fortune builders. I took almost all of my 401k that I had planned to start the business with, invested into fortune builders, and said, you know what, if I'm going to do this, I got to do this right. You go to college for a reason. I feel like this was me going back to college, and so made the investment and started learning from there. And I tell people when they ask me, when do you actually start your business? On paper, 2012, I didn't know what I was doing for almost an entire year. I would truly say 2013 was a turning point for us, because at that point we had some good education behind us. Now we knew what we needed to do. We knew how to screen contractors, hire contractors,
Yeah, I mean, at Fortune Builders, so Ryan and I actually, we cut the check too. We signed up for it too. I mean, I forget at the time, it was like $20,000.
Yeah.
So I think is what we did. And the thing about it.
Can you imagine? So think about this for a second. I quit my job in March. I go to a Fortune Builders event in May, the 3-day event in May. And I come home after day 1 and I call my wife and I call my parents on my way home and I say, hey, let's meet at Applebee's in Granite for dinner. I need to talk to you guys. And I go in and I sit down and I say, I'm investing into this Fortune Builders Mastery program. And my wife is like, well, we don't really necessarily have a lot of money at this point. You quit your job. What's it cost? And I'm like, it's in the ballpark of somewhere around $25,000. And there's crickets. My parents are looking at me like I'm nuts. My wife is like, how are we going to finance this? How are we going to? She's just looking at me like, are you nuts? Like, are you out of your mind? And again, I just remember her telling me, like, 2012, 2013, there was no stopping. Like, I had made my mind up. I was dead set. I was doing it.
Well, yeah.
And I was probably really hard to live with. And yeah, we made the leap and did it.
And at the time, guys, like, the information, like on YouTube now, there's a lot of great resources there. That wasn't around back then. So you get a mentor, you get something like that, or like to get some of this knowledge, like, there wasn't as many options as there are out there today, in many cases for free out there today, right? But like, when you think about it, like success leaves clues, is one of my sayings that I picked up from some of my Keller Williams ties. And like, when you model it, all you have to do is really just find the right model for your business, and don't figure it out through trial and error. Just start to implement successful systems and what other successful people are doing. And so that's the reason why we really did it, was we were just like, well, we can figure out a better way to manage contractors, or we can just model a system and then just kind of follow that and not take 4 or 5 years to figure it out. $20,000 or whatever a mentorship program is, when you think about it with your time investment too, having that knowledge base as quickly as possible is going to actually propel the business forward a heck of a lot faster. So is that what it did for you, man?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so then when did you start focusing more on rentals versus the flips? Like, when did that start happening?
So a lot of trial and error through 2012, 2013. We, obviously have some a good system in place. So now we're buying the properties right. We've got contractors that are constructing right. We're managing right. So now the money's coming in. And the thing I didn't like about the business was, we could go 2 to 3 months before we would sell a house. And then we'd put all that money back in the bank to bootstrap the business. And then, 2 or 3 months again before we could potentially sell another house. And I didn't like the inconsistency of the income. So, I had already had a few rental properties. And I said, it would be great if we could buy 10 or 12 properties that we could cash flow, just to create some consistent income to help cover payroll, to help cover costs. I didn't have an office at this time. I was working out of my house, my dining room table, or out of my basement. And so, cost was limited, expenses were limited, but I wanted some consistency. So we bought a building. So actually, the first building we bought was going to be an office building in 2013. We bought Edward Jones facility in Granite, and their lease was coming up. My plan was to move into that building so I could get out of my house. And they kind of refused to leave. They were like, give us your price on the rent. We want this location. And so I said, all right, well, if you're gonna give me that opportunity, then this is what we'll do. We'll agree on a great rent price, which we did, and I'll go find another location to make an office. So that kind of started the rental portfolio for the company. Was the first one we bought was the Edward Jones facility in Granite, and then not intending to get into commercial at all because I didn't know anything about commercial rental. But early 2014 and throughout 2014, we just bought everything we could get our hands on. And I think in 2014, we probably purchased close to 18, 20 homes that we bought, rehabbed, converted over to the rental portfolio. And honestly, never really looked back. I mean, we slowed down on the rental side as the market has gotten better because we, we're selling a little bit more. I think if it was, up to my wife, we'd probably, at this point, probably would cut back on the rental and sell everything that we rehab. But for me, I love the rental side of the business. We've not mastered a lot of things in this business, but I feel like on the rental side, we have done a really good job of building a team and just knowing how to process everything from the purchase of the property to the move in of the tenant, and getting everything done smooth as can be from start to finish. And we're still pushing 12 to 15 homes a year into the rental portfolio, and probably will continue to do that for some time, especially with rents being pushed as high as they are right now.
Yeah, so I actually, this was one of the things. So Dustin and I, we would meet in our, like, what is it, about every 6 months, we kind of get a group of us together and kind of hang out and talk shop. And you had the leg up on Ryan and I on this as far as the rental portfolio and how stinking valuable it is. Ryan and I, we missed, we were just so focused on flipping that, like, the 2010 to today, buying rentals that whole time, like I mean, we could have millions and millions of dollars more on our net worth than we do. Now, don't get me wrong, like, we're doing well. We have, our rental portfolio is great, but we never really focused on it. It just kind of was stuff that happened as we were doing other stuff. And the light bulb moment went on for me in that it's like, you have to work in St. Louis at our price point of $186,000 median price point. Like, I mean, depending on like the price point, you might be pretty happy to make 20 or 30K on a flip. And I have a rental that we bought for 40,000 that I was looking at comps the other day that's worth 130,000 right now. So, like, now I've owned it for 10 years, right? I did buy that one in around 2011. So like if you can just be patient over time, rentals, it's not even close how much more wealth and how much more profit is in mastering rental properties. It's not even close. But yeah.
And I'm kind of there with you when you think about, like, had I got in the business in 2009 instead of 2012, I look back at, there's 36 months there that I could have been educating myself on the rental side of the business, and how many homes could I have bought if I just bought in a year. That's 30 additional properties in our portfolio that probably could have been picked up for pennies on the dollar because of the market, and would be paid off today, creating enormous cash flow. And so, I sit there and I think about that, and I'm like, there's nothing I can do about it now, but every property that we buy in the company, I run the numbers on, even if I know we're selling it, I still run the numbers on the rental side, because I like to look at what that 15-year picture looks like for us if we do keep it, and what that cash flow looks like once the mortgage is paid off, what it looks like financed, so on and so forth. And it's hard for me to sell anything when I look at that picture.
Spoken like a true investor, right? And here's the deal, guys. Like when you're just starting out, especially if you're full time, you do have to have cash flow. Sometimes you do need that $20,000 influx from a flip, 20,000 plus, right? Like sometimes you do need it. But it ebbs and flows. Like like what I'd recommend is always try and diversify. And then the other thing, when people sit down with me and they're like, "Hey, I love my job. I'm making really good money. I also am like really interested in real estate." Well, like, if that's you, we'll just buy and hold. Like, keep doing. If you like your job, you can keep making good income and turn that income into money through investing in real estate, buy and hold. But like you're really like structured and organized in your processes. So a little bit ago, you said I have a process for everything on the rental side, for purchasing the property, tenant placement, you name it. Can we dive into like the processes that you've developed and kind of like the system that you have for doing these deals? So when you're purchasing the property, talk to me. Let's just kind of go down the line and like kind of like your workflow and the process that you go through. So when you're lead generating, do you have like any favorite lead generation methods?
Yeah, when it comes to lead generation, I like to just basically say we're really old school. I mean, we do the things that are very basic. And and I think when it comes to lead generation, it's not so much that you need to be doing one specific type of thing. It's just whatever you do, it just needs to be consistent. So for us, we do bandit signs, we do mailers. One of the things that I do is I do a lot of cold calling that people are really uncomfortable with cold calling. But when I worked at the bank, all of our business came off cold calling. So for me to pick up the phone and just randomly call someone and have a conversation about them selling their house at a discounted price, I have no problem with that. And we get more leads off of cold calling than I think we do out of anything. And that is probably one of my favorite techniques, because if you can get someone on the phone and you can tell them you are, what you do, the reputable company that you're with, where you're located, you can strike up a conversation that may not go anywhere at that point, but 9 months down the road, maybe another phone call that you get that turns into a great lead. And perfect example is we're closing on a property today that was just that. It was a cold call back in September of 2020. And I called this specific property multiple times, didn't get a call back until mid-November, and didn't get the deal worked out, couldn't make numbers work. Long story short, they called us last week and said, you know what, if your numbers still work, we're going to take it. And I said, yeah, I know in this market they work. I don't need to even look at it. I know that, and we're closing on it today. So cold calling to me, I think, is one of the best things you can do. And if you can get comfortable cold calling, then you can be comfortable in a lot of things, because it can be a tough thing for someone to be comfortable making that just random phone call to a stranger. But we also do bandit signs. I love bandit signs. We do mailers. I don't do a lot of mailers, but and then just networking. We do a lot of networking, a lot of prior to COVID, we'd go to a lot of events, talk to a lot of people, just the basic things like that.
So, a funny story on cold calling is anybody can do it. I mean, we have a shout out to AJ. We have a high school grad. He's an intern this summer for us. And I said, hey, if you want to be an intern for us, I need you, if we say jump, you say how high. I need you to do what we tell you to do. Are you open to doing anything we tell you to do? And he said, heck yeah, I am. So what we're doing is we said, okay, well, he's 17 or 18 years old. And we said, hey, well, we're going to start you cold calling. We're going to, you're going to get an experience doing this. He's never cold called before, ever. He picks up we did a few role plays with him. He listened to a few calls, listened to a few videos that we have, and he generated 4 leads in his first 3 hours of doing it.
Wow.
And AJ, just the mindset of just being willing and open to getting into action mode, and just trying and connecting and failing forward. I promise you, AJ's not starting out like a fantastic, smooth salesperson or anything like that. He's a high school kid that just graduated, and here we got 4 leads, got 4 opportunities in a couple hours.
Awesome.
But what AJ does have that other people don't have is he's just willing to hustle and to try and to make it happen. And I'm really proud of him. And success can be that simple, guys. Just getting out there and doing it, right? So do you have, when you did how did you get your mindset? When you were first starting out on cold calling, what happened with that? To where you could kind of just get over it and then start doing it.
Yeah, cold calling to me was scary at first, because I had no experience, and you're calling people you don't know, you're asking them for their business. And so I was very intimidated by cold calling. And I think after months of just being told no on every single phone call, you start to realize this isn't going to work. This isn't working. I have to figure out, when they tell me no, I got to figure out what my next step is, because I can't just accept no. So you learn pretty quickly when you're cold calling that no is going to be the answer 99% of the time. So the next step for me was, well, let's dive into why it's a no. Why is the product I'm trying to sell you not a good fit for you? And as they're telling you, or as they're talking to you about why it's not a good fit, you got to find a way to get your foot in the door through that. And I'd gotten pretty successful when I worked at the bank. I know we would call on a number of different products, and I would just listen very closely to what people were saying. And, they would mention something about, maybe wanting to do a home repair. Well, that would open the door to a home equity line of credit. Or, I think just getting them on the phone and being able to listen to them and get them to talk was the key to being able to sell them a product. And the more you do that, the more comfortable you get with cold calling. And it's the same way with real estate. You call and, someone says, well, my house isn't even for sale. How'd you get my information? Just strike up that conversation and get them to open up to you. Because once someone opens up to you, then you can figure out, okay, how do I get my foot in the door?
And I just to add to what Dustin said, guys, is people rarely remember what you say, but they sure remember how you made them feel. And a lot of times with cold calling, we get so bent on did I get the script perfect? Did I say the perfect words? And the majority of it is just, did you connect with them? Hey, I'm a human and I'm looking to buy a house. You're a human. Are you looking to sell a house? Let's put together a deal.
Yeah.
And just connecting on that type of just person to person level. That's how deals happen. That's how the connections happen.
Yeah. And I think one of the things I learned early on was people can sense if you're nervous when you call them and you're trying to sell them something. So you have to get comfortable with the idea of what you're doing. And if you are excited or if you're happy, people can honestly sense that through the phone. And people can feed off of your personality even when they're not face to face with you. And I think that is key. It's one of the things that when I got into management at the Bank of Eversole, I would always tell them, be nervous, think about this phone call is just a phone call to your grandmother or your grandfather, and have a smile on your face when you make this phone call, because people are going to sense that. And I truly believe that.
Hey there, if you're looking to get the ultimate edge for your real estate investing company, go to doorstodeals.com/invest for more information. Just so you know, a high percentage of the people that we interview on this podcast are actually already Three Doors Network members. And our network members have a lot of extra resources. They have access to an online training vault with over 3 years worth of content in it. They have access to vendor savings like our Home Depot discount that's literally saved thousands of dollars for members. And we have a weekly group coaching call, and we have a lot of other great things as well as part of the Three Doors Network. So make sure that you check it out on doorstodeals.com/invest.